Hi, and welcome to Crab Recap. Today I will tell you about a movie called Fighting with My Family. The movie starts with a young boy named Zach watching a wrestling match on TV. Just as the match ends, his sister Soraya snatches the remote from him. They begin to fight, and their parents walk in. Surprisingly, instead of stopping them, their parents encourage them to fight like a champion. Soon, Soraya pins down Zach, and her father requests her to fight in a wrestling match for his club. She refuses at first, but soon agrees on the condition that she will fight Zach dressed as a girl instead of a real opponent. On the day of the match, Soraya feels nervous in front of the large crowd. However, she soon becomes ecstatic as the crowd starts cheering for her. Later, Soraya and Zach fight their parents in a tag team match and win. After the match, Zach and Soraya help their parents in packing their stuff from the arena. During their ride home, their father, Rick, calls Hutch Morgan from World Wrestling Entertainment. Rick informs the secretary that he sent his kids' tapes to Mr. Morgan and wants to know about further developments. The secretary states that Mr. Morgan will contact them if necessary. The next day, Soraya distributes promotional posters about their wrestling match among random people. A group of girls pass by, and they recognize Soraya because her brother was on the news once. They call her a freak, which traumatizes Soraya as she watches herself in the mirror. Zach and Soraya continue to train the young wrestlers at their club, while their parents, Rick and Julia, worry about their poor financial conditions. One day, while Zach and Soraya train youngsters at their club, Zach's girlfriend Courtney visits them. She informs Zach that she is pregnant, and her parents want to meet his family. Zach comes home and pleads with his parents to behave appropriately with Courtney's parents. He further asks his family to dress up properly and refrain from swearing. As the two families sit together for dinner, they get a phone call from Hutch Morgan stating that they are impressed by Zach and Soraya's tape. Zach and Soraya are invited to WWE tryouts in April. The whole family is delighted, and they celebrate happily. They further show Courtney's parents the most incredible WWE matches and daydream about becoming rich soon. Rick plans to sell his children's merchandise and offers shares to Courtney's father. Zach and Soraya spend the next few days training hard and assuring each other they will do great at tryouts. When the day of tryouts finally comes, Zach and Soraya arrive at the SmackDown arena. Suddenly, they spot Rock backstage, who advises them to be original and give their best in the ring. Soon, Hutch takes them to the tryout and explains they must have the skills and magical spark to be the next WWE star. Morgan makes fun of Zach and Soraya during introductions, declaring them too simple without originality. He urges Soraya to come up with a new ring name, and she claims her new name is Paige. Both Zach and Soraya perform best during wrestling tryouts. Finally, when it's time to announce the winners, only Paige is selected, which leaves Zach heartbroken. Paige follows Morgan and urges him to take Zach instead of her, but Morgan refuses. Paige then declares that if Zach isn't selected, she won't go to Florida either. But Zach advises her to consider her family, who wanted them to join wrestling. Paige agrees to go to Florida for NXT developmental, which can lead to her WWE career. When Zach and Paige arrive home, their family and friends await them. A sad Zach announces that he didn't get selected, but Paige did. He further states that Paige is the first 18-year-old English girl selected in WWE. The whole family celebrates this moment while Zach feels sad and alienated. The following day, Paige packs for the airport and watches her room one last time, which is full of WWE stars posters. She holds her handmade Divas Championship belt when Zach visits her. Zach advises her not to cry at the airport as it will make their parents cry. At the airport, Paige emotionally bids farewell to her family and leaves for Florida. Soon, Paige arrives at the performance center, and she feels out of place as the other girls look like models. She gets busy in the initial training stage among her peers, while Morgan accesses them. Morgan informs them that the training will get hard each day, and the only way out is if he removes them or they press the horn to stop. A few of them are sent home after the initial assessments, and Paige feels delighted to reach this far. When Paige is busy training, Zach feels depressed and keeps losing interest in training young rookies. In the next few days, Morgan teaches the young NXT enthusiasts the techniques to win the crowd. He urges them to introduce themselves uniquely and asks them to demonstrate on stage. When it's Paige's turn to introduce herself, Morgan makes fun of her her and calls her basic. Paige feels discouraged and feels like everyone is making fun of her. When Paige is busy training for NXT, Courtney gives birth to a baby boy. So, with a new spirit, Zach tries hard and makes a new tape, which he sends to Morgan. Unfortunately, Morgan informs Zach that he won't be selected for WWE. One day, Paige trains among other girls and realizes that most of them don't have a wrestling background. She notices their unprofessional actions and slaps her fellow Kirsten. Morgan forces Paige to apologize to her fellow, and Paige feels humiliated. At night, she calls her family and tells them she misses them badly. They tell Paige that ever since they announced her selection in WWE, people have gone crazy for her. Her parents are making a lot of money by selling her posters. Paige's father reveals they are planning a grand match between Zach and Paige during Christmas break. Her parents assure her that she has the required skills and spark and that she will make them proud one day. Paige then tries to make amends with her fellows about slapping Kirsten yesterday, but ends up offending them again. Finally, at the NXT promo challenge, Paige fails to impress the crowd as they boo at her and call her grandma for being non-glamorous. She freezes when it's time to introduce herself to the crowd, and they all call her a freak. Paige cries to sleep that night and tries to reach Zach, but he doesn't answer her calls. Meanwhile, Zach feels depressed and uninterested in his girlfriend and son. He stops training young rookies. After the public humiliation by the crowd, Paige decides to dye her hair blonde and change her appearance. Paige feels uncomfortable in her new appearance during her training session at the beach and fails miserably. Later, Morgan advises her to quit and play wrestling with her family in London. He states that Paige has a weak spirit and wrestling skills, so she isn't the right option like her brother. Morgan further says he didn't select Zach because WWE might have used him as a punching bag for the main stars. When Paige doesn't believe him, Morgan says he has been through these conditions. Finally, Paige returns home for Christmas break, and her family is excited about her homecoming match with Zach. Backstage, Paige informs Zach that she wants to quit her WWE career and wants his help telling the parents. During the match, Zach acts aggressively toward Paige and pins her down multiple times, finally defeating her. The whole family is shocked about Zach's strange behavior and scolds him. He informs them that he acted like that because Paige wants to quit wrestling. Paige feels vulnerable and admits to her parents that she doesn't want to stay away from them and wants to leave WWE. Rick and Julia try to reason with Paige about staying in WWE for her family, but Paige refuses to comply. That night, Julia informs Paige that Zach hasn't returned home yet, and they need to look for him. During the car ride, Julia supports Paige and states that she doesn't have to wrestle if she doesn't want to. They soon spot Zach's car outside a bar and rush in. Zach has gotten into a bar fight with a group of young men. Rick takes Zach out of the bar and scolds him. When Zach walks away, Paige follows him and wonders why Zach doesn't talk to her. Zach shows her how disappointed he is about her decision to leave wrestling. He further states that Paige took his dream away, but Paige assures him it was also her dream. Zach encourages Paige not to abandon her dream and return to Florida for her family. Paige makes up her mind and rejoins her NXT tryouts in Florida. She returns to her old identity with a lip ring and dark hair. During the next few days, Paige keeps training hard and even makes amends with her fellows. She learns some skills about how to impress the crowd and practices epic comeback at haters. Paige and Madison make a tag team and win the NXT tag team match, which impresses Morgan. As a reward, Morgan takes all the NXT rookies to the WrestleMania main event. At WrestleMania, Paige meets some WWE stars such as Big Show, Sheamus, and The Miz. Suddenly, Morgan takes Paige to a private room where she meets The Rock, who asks Paige to call her family. Paige's parents are surprised to get a call from The Rock, who informs them that Paige will fight in a match tomorrow. She will fight for the Divas Championship against AJ Lee on Monday Night Raw. Meanwhile, Zach and his brother Roy make amends in their relationship and start training wrestling again. On the day of her debut match, Paige gets anxious and calls Zach. Zach assures Paige that she has the extra spark none of them has and can win the game. Later, Paige joins AJ Lee on stage, who mocks and slaps Paige. At the start, Paige takes several blows from AJ, but recovers soon and starts beating up AJ Lee. After a long, hard struggle, Paige defeats AJ and becomes the new Divas champion. Her family cheer and cry out with happiness. The post-credits show that Paige is still the youngest Divas champion in history. While Zach and Roy are wrestling as a tag team, Zach's blind student has joined professional wrestling. Paige has positively influenced women's wrestling and helped give them more airtime. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Write your opinion about the movie in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos.